It was a day of mourning in the village of Oloduma when the news spread like wildfire. Otueke, the wealthiest man in the land, had passed away in his sleep. But as the community prepared for his burial, his three sons discovered something that made their blood run cold. His will contained only a single sentence: "To find what I leave behind, follow the path of the baobab tree. But beware, what you seek may not be what you expect." It was a day that began with whispers and ended with shouts. In Oloduma, the sun hid behind thick gray clouds, and a strange stillness covered the land. Villagers spoke in hushed tones, their faces somber as they walked towards the baobab tree in the center of the village square. Otueke, the man whose name commanded respect across Oloduma and beyond, was dead. Otueke, being a man of many talents, a farmer, a trader, a storyteller, and most importantly, a father, his wealth had no equal, and neither did his wisdom. He has raised his sons with sternness and love, though he often said the truest lessons are not spoken, they are lived. Now the sons stood before the sacred baobab, waiting to hear their father's will. Ajani, the eldest, stood tall and proud, his jaw clenched as if ready to fight the words on the parchment. Ebuka, the second son, leaned casually against the tree, a slight smirk on his lips, as though the day's event were a game he intended to win. Kachi, the youngest, stood quietly, his hands escaped and clasped before him, his gaze fixed on the tree's ancient root. Baba Ogun, the village elder, unrolled the parchment with trembling hands. His voice, though aged, carried the weight of the moment. Otueke's will, he began, pausing to let the silence deepen. Then he read aloud: "To find what I leave behind, follow the path of the baobab tree, but beware, what you seek may not be what you expect." A gasp rippled through the crowd. Ajani stepped forward, his voice sharp. "What kind of nonsense is this? Where is the land, the cattle, and the gold?" Baba Ogun shook his head. "These are Otueke's words, not mine." Ebuka frowned, his clever mind already calculating. Father loved riddles. This is a game. It's a test. Kachi said nothing. He only stared at the tree, his father's voice echoing in his memory. The baobab sees all, but it reveals only to the patient. The villagers murmured amongst themselves, their voices a mix of awe and confusion. Some praised Otueke's wisdom, while others criticized his cruelty in death. Perhaps he hid his treasures in the forest, one man suggested. Or maybe he left nothing at all, another muttered. Baba Ogun raised his hand for silence. Whatever the truth may be, it is the sons who must uncover it. The path begins at the baobab, as Otueke decreed. The tension between Otueke's sons had always simmered beneath the surface, but now it threatened to boil over. Alright guys, if at this point you're enjoying this story, please do not forget to subscribe, turn on your post notification button so you'll be notified every time I post a new video. Thank you so much and God bless you. Okay, let's continue. Ajani was the first to speak as they left the village square. "The inheritance is mine," he declared. As the eldest, I have the right to it. Ebuka snorted. And what have you done to earn it? Father's wealth didn't come from brute strength. It came from strategy. If anyone deserves it, it's me. Kachi walked a few paces behind, sighed. Father wouldn't have wanted us to fight. Ajani turned his eyes blazing. Stay out of this, Kachi. You are too young to understand. He always said that, Kachi replied softly. But maybe understanding isn't about age. The brothers continued their journey in uneasy silence, the baobab tree growing smaller behind them as the forest loomed ahead. As the brothers ventured deeper into the forest, the air grew thicker with silence. Even the chirping of birds seemed to fade, leaving only the sound of their footsteps crunching against the forest floor. The path, though faint, was marked by occasional carvings on tree trunks, symbols their father often drew in the dirt during his lessons. Look, Kachi said, pointing to one of the carvings. It resembles an open eye surrounded by swirling lines. Ajani frowned. Father loved his symbols, but what does it mean? It means we are on the right path, Ebuka said, his tone patient. Let's keep moving. The trail led them to a clearing where a smaller baobab tree stood. At its base was a clay pot covered with intricate designs. Inside the pot, they found a rolled piece of parchment. Ajani snatched it up and unrolled it. It's another riddle, he muttered. Ebuka leaned in to read over his shoulder. The traveler who seeks riches must first understand their weight. Look to the stars when the path grows dark and let your heart be your compass. What is this supposed to mean? Ajani growled. It's simple, Ebuka said, smirking. We keep going until we find something valuable. Kachi, however, studied the riddle carefully. It's not about the treasure, he said. It's about understanding. Father's words are always layered with meaning. Ajani waved him off. We don't have time for these riddles. Kachi, let's move. The path led them to a bustling market at the edge of the forest. Merchants called out to them, displaying wares that sparkled in the sunlight. Golden trinkets, vibrant fabrics, and carved statues. One merchant, a weary man with sharp eyes, approached them. Ah, travelers, you look like men of distinction. Perhaps you'll be interested in treasures from the baobab itself. Ajani's eyes lit up. Treasures from the baobab? The merchant nodded, gesturing to a small chest filled with glittering jewelries. These gems were found at the roots of the sacred tree. They carried the blessings of the ancestors. Ajani reached for his pouch of coins, but Kachi grabbed his arm. Wait, this feels wrong. Don't be fooled, Ajani snapped. This is what we are looking for. Ebuka, ever the skeptic, eyed the merchant. If the jewels are so valuable, why sell them here? Surely you could make a fortune elsewhere. The merchant smiled, flattered for a moment, but he quickly recovered. I am a humble man, he said. I wish to share my blessings with others. Despite Kachi's protest, Ajani handed over his coins and took the chest. But as they left the market, the jewels began to crumble, turning to dust in his hands. Ajani roared with anger, throwing the empty chest to the ground. You were too eager, Kachi said quietly. And you were too cautious, Ajani snapped. This is your fault. Enough, Ebuka said. Let's keep moving. We can't waste time on petty arguments. The next leg of the journey led them into a dense forest where the sunlight barely penetrated the canopy. The trees seemed to close in around them, and the air grew cold and heavy. "This place feels wrong," Kachi said, his voice barely above a whisper. "Don't be scared, little brother," Ajani said, though even he seemed uneasy. As they walked, strange whispers began to fill the air. The voices seemed to come from nowhere and everywhere at once. "Turn back," one voice hissed. "You will find something but sorrow," another warned. Ajani grit his teeth, ignored them. "They are just tricks." But the whispers grew louder, and soon each brother began to see visions. Ajani saw himself standing atop a hill, surrounded by riches. But as he reached out to touch them, they turned to ash. Ebuka saw himself sitting on a throne, his brothers kneeling before him, but when he looked closer, he saw the throne was made of thorns cutting into his flesh. Kachi saw nothing but the faces of his family, his father, his brothers, and the villagers, staring at him with hope and trust. The whispers grew deafening until Kachi dropped to his knees, covering his ears. "Stop!" he shouted. In that moment, the forest fell still and silent. When Kachi looked up, he saw a faint light in the distance. "This way," he said, his voice steady. Ajani and Ebuka hesitated, but followed. The lights led them to a clearing where three paths diverged, each marked by a carved stone. The first road, the path of strength. The second read, the path of cunning. The third read, the path of wisdom. Ajani immediately stepped towards the first path. "Strength is what we need to claim our inheritance." Ebuka smirked. "Strength is useless without strategy. I will take the path of cunning." Kachi hesitated, his eyes moving between the stones. Finally, he chose the path of wisdom. The three paths eventually covered at the base of the largest baobab tree they had ever seen. Its roots twisted like ancient hands, and its bark shimmered as if alive. At its base was a wooden chest. Ajani and Ebuka rushed to open it, their hearts pounding with anticipation. Inside, they found only a mirror and a note. "Your greatest inheritance is who you choose to be. Wealth fades, but character lasts forever." Ajani and Ebuka were furious. "This is nonsense," Ajani shouted. "We wasted all this time for nothing," Ebuka muttered. Kachi picked up the mirror and gazed into it. He saw his reflection staring back, and for the first time he understood. "Our father wanted us to see that true wealth lies not in gold or cattle, but in the legacy of our character," he said. The silence after Kachi's realization was heavy. Ajani paced around the baobab, muttering under his breath. His muscles were tense, his fists clenched. This was a waste of time. A joke, he barked, kicking at the roots of the tree. Ebuka, seated on a nearby rock, stared at the mirror with disdain. "What kind of man leaves this behind? A mirror? What does it solve? It doesn't put food on our table or cattle in our feet." Kachi remained calm, still holding the mirror. "Father wasn't teaching us to chase wealth," he said quietly. "He wanted us to see ourselves clearly, to understand who we are and what we can become." Ajani coughed, spoken like someone content with nothing. "You can keep your philosophy, Kachi. I will find my own way to wealth." With that, Ajani stormed off, disappearing into the forest. Ebuka stood and dusted himself off. "He's right. This lesson might work for dreamers like you, Kachi, but not for me. I will use my wit to carve my path." "Ebuka, wait!" But he too turned and walked away, leaving Kachi alone at the base of the baobab tree. Kachi stayed by the tree for hours, reflecting on the journey. He thought about the trials they had faced, the merchant's deception, the forest of shadows, and the crossroads of truth. Each challenge had revealed something about his brothers and himself. Ajani is strong, but his pride blinds him. Ebuka is clever, but his greed controls him. And me? What am I? The mirror in his hands shimmered, and for a moment it seemed to show not his reflection but a vision of the village. He saw the people of Oluduma struggling, farmers working tirelessly, children playing with torn toys, elders sitting in the shade of the baobab, their faces etched with worry. Kachi realized that his inheritance was not meant for him alone, it was meant for everyone. When Kachi returned to Oluduma, the villagers gathered around him, eager to hear what he had found. "Did you claim the inheritance?" one man asked. "Where are your brothers?" a woman added. Kachi raised his hand for silence. "My father's will was not what we expected. He left us a lesson, not gold or land." The crowd murmured in confusion. "But that lesson has shown me what we need," Kachi continued. "We don't need riches buried in the ground. We need unity, wisdom, and hard work. Together, we can build something greater than any one man's wealth." At first, the villagers were skeptical, but over time, Kachi's actions spoke louder than his words. He used what little resources he had to start small projects, repairing broken tools, teaching children to read, and organizing the farmers to share their harvest more efficiently. Slowly, Oluduma began to thrive. Meanwhile, Ajani wandered from village to village, offering his strength to anyone who could pay. He worked as a laborer, a guard, and even a fighter in underground marches. Though he earned some money, it never lasted long. His pride often led him into conflicts, and he quickly gained a reputation as a man who couldn't be trusted. One night, after losing everything in a fight, Ajani sat alone by a fire. He thought about his father and the journey he had abandoned. For the first time, he wondered if Kachi had been right. Ebuka's path was different. He became a merchant, using his cunning to outwit others in trade. He amassed a small fortune, but his greed made him enemies. One day, he struck a deal with a wealthy trader who promised him even greater riches, but the deal was a trap, and Ebuka lost everything he had gained. As he sat in the ruins of his ambitions, Ebuka remembered the mirror and the lesson it held. Years passed by. One by one, Ajani and Ebuka found their way back to Oloduma, where their elder humbled. They were older, humbled by their experiences, and eager to reconcile with their younger brother. Kachi welcomed them with open arms. "I never stopped hoping you would return," he said. The three brothers stood beneath the baobab tree, where their journey had begun. This time, there was no anger or rivalry, only understanding. Under Kachi's leadership, Oloduma became a model village. The baobab tree, once a symbol of mystery, now stood as a reminder of the lessons Otueke had left behind. Kachi often gathered the villagers beneath its shade to share stories and wisdom. "True wealth," he would say, "is not in what we take, but in what we give. My father taught me that, and I hope to teach you all the same." Ajani and Ebuka became Kachi's closest allies, using their strength and cunning for the good of the village. Together, the brothers honored their father's legacy by building a community where everyone could thrive. Years later, when Kachi's own children asked about the mirror and the journey, he smiled and told them, "The baobab tree is wise. It teaches us to stand tall, to grow deep roots, and to reach for the sky. But most importantly, it reminds us that no man can stand alone. We are strongest when we stand together." And so, the lesson Otueke left in his will became the foundation of a legacy that would endure for generations. With this, we have come to the end of this story. Please do not forget to subscribe, turn on your notification buttons so that when we post a new video, you'll be the first to get notified. Give this video a thumbs up. Just click on the like button. Share it with your friends and family just to show us love and support. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section. Which of the brothers are you rooting for? Bye for now, and I'll see you in my next video.